The final Prime Minister's questions before the summer break always carries a different kind of energy. And this one was no exception. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you are watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Keir Starmer faced his last major Commons showdown, with plenty of attention on how he would handle the pressure and whether he could leave a strong final impression. But after watching the exchange, James O'Brien had a very clear reaction, describing Starmer's performance as close to perfect. So, what exactly stood out, and did Starmer really deliver one of his strongest moments at the dispatch box? Let's break down the key points and look at why this PMQs caught so much attention.
Will it be normal PMQs? I don't want to be rude about Cami Badenoch, so let me phrase this question diplomatically. Will she, I've asked you this before in other circumstances, and the evidence that subsequently emerged provided an answer, and that answer was no, but will she be respectful of the moment and the man?
I think she probably will use this as her final opportunity to kick the boot into Keir Starmer. I don't think we're going to see some of the niceties that we regularly see with final PMQs.
I hope you're wrong.
Prime Ministers. I hope I'm wrong too, but I don't think that's her style. I just don't think she wants to do it, and I don't think anyone would really believe her if she did do it. If she got up today and said, you know, actually, Keir Starmer has had some great achievements and we'll be sad to see him go, I don't think anyone will believe her.
She's moved so far beyond. I mean, it's the difference between parliamentary conversation and Twitter-based conversation, is that the nastiness and the vitriol has been so baked into her performances that to backtrack now and be nice would just look inauthentic and unconvincing.
I don't think anyone would believe her.
What a shame.
And I don't generally, so I don't know if you heard Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, speaking on the Sunday round. He was asked, you know, is there anything from Rachel Reeves that you can say that you think she's done a good job on? And he said, oh no, I'm going to scratch in my head, I can't think of anything, which is disingenuous probably, isn't it? Because let's be honest, everybody will probably look at Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer's record and you'll be able to pull out positives and negatives. Everybody can do that. But the fact that he was unable to do so makes me think that Cami Badenoch probably will not take the opportunity to say thank you to Sir Keir Starmer. She'll probably just want to essentially gloat in taking him down, I think, is probably how she would like to,
well, we forgot
look at
that.
this.
Of course, she'll claim the credit
She'll
for
claim
it.
the credit.
Done by his own party, of course, but she will. I think Farage has already claimed it was all down to him. Badenoch will claim it's all down to her. The only thing missing is the boogie.
Exactly.
The sunshine, the moonlight, and blame it on the boogie.
Maybe
so what will she do? What will she go for? What are his most vulnerable spots?
Yeah, I think obviously the economic record is mixed, and Rachel Reeves has spent the last couple of days trying to defend it. But the two of them, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, so inextricably linked as Chancellor and Prime Minister, and arguably lots. You know, as I was speaking to somebody yesterday who's serving a special advisor who said, you know, so many of the big mistakes that this government have made in the last 2 years lead back to the Treasury, unfortunately, and that's the general view of lots of people in government, is that the Treasury and Rachel Reeves have made mistakes, and that has led in part to the downfall of this government. So that will be a definite weak one for her to put the boot in.
Although they remain ahead of the I mean, in the latest polls, well ahead of the Tories. So there's this curious combination of epic public failure and yet huge self-satisfaction and celebration now, as Mystic Jim predicted, with much of the right-wing media joining in, particularly as they come to realise that perhaps Farage is not the Messiah and is a very naughty boy. She will just not acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Starmer might be going, but the polling is better for the Labour Party than it has been in years.
Sure, yeah, and you know, maybe part of that is the burn and bounce.
Of course it is.
And potentially maybe Kemi Starmer, goodness, who's that? Cami Badenoch uses this Prime Minister's questions to start attacking Andy Burnham, to start going after the man that's going to be in that position in just a couple of days' time, because we're not going to get Andy Burnham versus Cami Badenoch for a number of weeks, because we're about to go into parliamentary recess. 6 to 7 week recess.
6, 7?
6, 7.
My
6,
kids
7.
go nuts when I do
Can't
that.
say that.
No,
even Keir Starmer found out. You're not allowed to do
sorry.
it.
It's just
worse
like
when we do it, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I just pretend. Can we scratch that? Can we delete that, Keith?
Dump.
Don't let that go anywhere. I want it off YouTube. I want it off the tape. I want it off the global player. Everything. Don't rewind it. Nothing. All right. I never did that. Never happened. Davey presumably will be a little bit more.
He'll be a bit kinder to Keir
Gentlemanly.
Starmer. Yeah, although saying that, every time Ed Davey is nice to Keir Starmer, he ends up with a slapdown. I just don't think I don't think Keir Starmer will be too respectful back. But yes, I think you've got much more of a chance there. But yes, it's an odd time when a Prime Minister is handing over for his final Prime Minister's questions, and you'll see probably lots of backbench MPs say lots of nice things about Keir Starmer, but privately behind closed doors, they are the ones, of course, as we know, that have basically ousted him from his position. Him and them in the cabinet were the two real final straws for Keir Starmer's government, and I'm sure we will see lots of talk about Keir Starmer's legacy. He will obviously want to use this last PMQs to say, these are all the things I've done in the last 2 years. You know, breakfast clubs, I've put this defence spending plan in, I've got the economy restabilised, I've got the world stage restabilised, I've had a relationship with President Trump, I've been a statesman internationally, and I think he will be absolutely wanting to trumpet his record there, and Kemi Badenoch will doing all she can to essentially trash it and say the next guy, it's not going to be any better.
Indeedy doody, without mentioning the fact that they're beating her in the polls still, despite the fact that the current government has had far from a happy time of it in the last 2.5 years. Why did he get, and forgive me, this might sound like a gotcha, I don't know the answer, so don't worry if you don't. He got a Legion d'honneur yesterday.
He did,
in France,
yes,
from Emmanuel Macron, the first serving British Prime Minister ever to get that honour.
Yeah, for his work on Ukraine, they said, a coalition of the willing, and I think it's fair to say he has really led on that. When I spoke to Yvette Cooper earlier this week, she says that she thinks one of the things that Andy Burnham will be absolutely keen to stress is that the relationship on Ukraine and our strength standing by them will absolutely be certain under Andy Burnham. And apparently there was a report out today saying that he's been told he needs to develop a personal relationship with Zelensky to make that happen, which is interesting because I'm not sure the two of them have ever met. So.
Got a similar dress sense.
That's true, they do.
Swap black T-shirt notes.
The anti-uniform wasn't wearing it.
I might do this tomorrow, actually, or before the end of the week. Not so much where did it all go wrong for Keir Starmer, but the single biggest thing. I suspect not going to war in Iran as more time passes, that will, just in terms of the most effective, the bravest political thing that he did, to tell Donald Trump to sling his hook, to accept the abuse from everybody, albeit that they pretend otherwise now. Badenoch and Farage both absolutely full-throated in their expressed desire to do whatever Donald Trump wanted them to do, now beating hasty retreats and reverse ferrets galore. He got that absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think, critics will say that was the way the wind was blowing in our relationship and Donald Trump's relationship, but I agree with you. I think it's probably one of his strengths.
Looks more right every day.
Absolutely.
I turn to this Prime Minister's final questions. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to make sure that I got the tone right today. So I looked back at his final questions to Boris Johnson. And luckily for him, I plan to be much gentler than he was that day. Week after week, the Prime Minister and I have clashed at this dispatch box and rarely agreed on anything. But there is one thing I did admire. When President Zelensky was attacked in the White House, the Prime Minister showed leadership and invited him to Downing Street. That was the right thing to do.
I thank her for her comments about Ukraine. We have stood united on Ukraine in this House. We supported the last government in the approach that they took, and we've taken that approach on. That meeting with President Zelensky, the day after he was evicted from the Oval Office, he left alone. He got a plane. We got him to come to London, and I asked him to come to Downing Street straight away. And I walked out to meet him. I gave him a hug, and then I showed him what was in the street, which was many people who had come thinking that he was visiting Downing Street. And the moment he got out the car and hugged me, they cheered on the top of their voices, the British people, to tell President Zelensky exactly what they thought of him and the way that he had been treated. And that was a really emotional moment because it was the first human contact he had effectively had outside of his immediate team since he left the Oval Office.
That was pretty close to perfect. I have to point out, Natasha, that you were wrong.
I was so wrong.
And I was forlorn. I hoped, against hope, that Kemi Badenoch would show grace and decorum, and she showed it in, on levels I've never seen from her before. In fact, I'm so taken with the idea that that's what she would be like if Twitter didn't exist.
No doubt he will be disappointed that he won't be emulating his hero, Harold Wilson, in winning multiple elections. However, we all hope that he may be about to emulate him in another way, by being the Prime Minister when England win the World Cup. That is something that every single one of us in this House should get behind, especially the SNP. As leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister led his party to a landslide after a historic defeat. I fully intend to do the same. But if you want to lead this country, you should set out your plans to do so. We have. But one politician intends to spend the summer avoiding scrutiny, refusing to set out his plans. So does he not agree that what the country deserves is a televised debate between Nigel Farage and Count Binface?
It's almost like she prefers that version of herself. She was charming, she was funny, she was warm, she was kind, she was measured, she was decent, she was insightful, she was thoughtful, she was all of the things that she works so hard most weeks to pretend that she isn't.
I know how much the Prime Minister has come to enjoy our exchanges. In fact, in the King's speech last month, he told me that on difficult days, my input was always a ray of sunshine. He might not have answered many of the questions I asked him, but at least he turned up.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't really put it better myself. That was very pleasant and soft, kind
more than
tone
that. It was
from
more than
her.
pleasant, wasn't it? It was lovely.
Yeah.
It was really lovely.
It was very fitting. And Keir Starmer obviously responded to that really well. And I think actually, we spoke when Keir Starmer first became Prime Minister and Kemi Badenoch first became Leader of the Opposition. And I very much was the impression with talking to people around them that the pair didn't really like each other very much. I think that's probably changed. And I think, when you refer back to what Keir Starmer said about she's reached out to me over when my brother died, when my home was attacked. And I really appreciated that. I think that is, they have clearly been brought together by having to work together over the last 2 years.
Let me wish her well and her family. We have had robust exchanges across this dispatch box, but she has extended kindness to me privately at very difficult times, including when there was an attempt to burn down our family home, which deeply affected my family. She reached out to me. And when my brother died of cancer, she reached out to me privately, not across this dispatch box. And I thank her for that and the tribute that she's just made to my wife and children, who mean the world to me.
No matter what happens at the dispatch box, no matter what happens on the telly screens, at debates, in elections, behind the scenes, politicians, I'm afraid to say, there's far more in common than that divides them, and they are far nicer to each other behind the scenes than you ever see and you'd ever think watching PMQs between the pair of them. So yeah, a very nice final PMQs for Starmer. I think that was the right decision for Kemi to not go hard on his record and allow him to talk up all of the achievements. It's his final time. He's not going to be doing that again. And he was keen to talk about defence, NHS waiting lists, the economy being more stabilised, the world stage, all of the things that we thought that he might talk about and, portray what he thinks is his best record. And others will, of course, disagree, and others will say that they didn't think he had a brilliant 2 years as Prime Minister, but, it's his final PMQs, it's his final outing that he can put across his case. And we can, I'm sure, dissect that over the next few days as we make this transition to a new Prime Minister. Next time it will be Andy Burnham. Who gets installed on Monday. He'll be Labour leader on Friday and new Prime Minister on Monday. But the House, as it stands, is going into recess. I'm not sure exactly the day, but it's later this week, early next. And we won't have any more Prime Minister's questions, so it will be a while. Andy Burnham will have a
good, because that leaves a lovely taste in the mouth or in the ears, doesn't it? That's a little reminder of what things can be like. And of course they have to bite chunks out of each other, but perhaps not with quite the vitriol that has been witnessed and deployed in recent, for most of the last couple of years, to be honest with you. No, I'm quite emotional about that.
Yeah, it was fun, wasn't it? It was light-hearted and fun, little jokes. I know how much he enjoys me and calls me a little ray of sunshine, says Kemi when he comes up talking about Keir. And, the line I liked as well from Keir Starmer about advice.
I shall give my support privately if asked for, not publicly when not asked for.
Crafted a good laugh, and I think that's probably fair. Keir Starmer, I think of any Prime Minister recently, has been more at risk of getting unhelpful advice from so many of his predecessors.
Nicely put. A couple of people asking where Farage is. Of course, he's not an MP.
He's not an MP anymore, so we can't even chastise him. Well, we can.
I think the technical term is that he has taken the Chiltern Hundred.
He has indeed, yeah. There's no member of Parliament for Clacton as it stands.
Just to be clear, the Chiltern Hundreds are not like the Harborne Millions. It's a completely different principle and political tradition.
To my successor and each of you, I will give my full support. To all colleagues across the House, can I wish you good health and happiness. To all those in the gallery whose lives have been changed or improved by this Labour government, and all across the country who struggle to be seen or heard, you're the reason I came into politics. To my wife and children, I love you. Goodbye.
And there you have it, James O'Brien's reaction to Keir Starmer's final PMQs and why he viewed the performance as one of Starmer's strongest moments. Whether you agree with that assessment or not, it's clear that this exchange has sparked plenty of debate about Starmer's leadership, his communication style, and the direction of the government moving forward. But now I want to hear from you. What's your take on Starmer's final PMQs? Did he really deliver one of his strongest performances, or do you think there's more to the story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like and subscribe and help us reach 100,000 subscribers. We're getting closer every day, and we truly appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.